everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Sunday, September 3rd, 2023. Venus is stationed direct, my friends. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread. First card we are starting our day off with today is our 5 of Pentacles energy. So, this could be feeling a little bit triggering as we start the day today. Some anxiety, some doubts, some fears. But what we really want to face in terms of experiencing some of this, and this makes a lot of sense bearing in mind where we left things yesterday in our daily collective read. For masculine and feminine energy, we saw the fact that there are some offers that are effectively being held right now. Feminine is in a state that we identified yesterday where they were feeling some level of anxiety and uncertainty in terms of what the masculine energy was putting forth towards them. Bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. Feminine, for her part, is navigating their own emotional space, and we didn't necessarily see the feminine was going through this moment right now that was feeling like some internal hurdle that needed to be addressed and better understood before feminine could really come into alignment with their emotional center. This may have been leaving some points of pause or uncertainty now, and some of this may be coming up, especially as we start the day today, in terms of how you are feeling. What's very important when we see energy like this is to make sure that you're not operating from a state of fear, but utilizing and assessing your intentionality and purpose at this time to make sure that you do not come into a reactive space, but one that is more driven towards your own highest self and your highest purpose going forward from this point. Second card that we have coming through right now in our 5-card spread for today is Lovers in its reversal. So this is actually making a lot of sense bearing in mind where we saw the energies leaving things yesterday. There is a separation point that we are identifying right now in terms of where the conclusion of this Venus in retrograde cycle has left the masculine and the feminine energy. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. We have identified, especially over the cards of the day and a lot of the collective readings that we've seen throughout this Venus in retrograde cycle, that feminine and masculine have been going on 2 very different journeys. To the feminine energy, there has been a lot of weighing situations and circumstances to really ask themselves places and spaces where they feel seen, supported, valued. This has required for the feminine energy a level or degree of coming into surrendering the circumstances and situations that they may be feeling that they cling to, but do not necessarily make them feel that they are in that vibration of love. This has required a lot of self-work for the feminine. Hence, some of this abandonment wound coming into play, because it's the identification of moving towards something that feels like you are trying to fulfill a need that is not being fulfilled versus something that feels like it is supporting, that it is giving forth what you are putting into it at this time. This has required the feminine energy to do a lot of this shedding that we've seen throughout this Venus in retrograde cycle, but all to come into a deeper understanding of what the feminine truly needs from a point of love and appreciation and value going forward. Now for masculine, what we've really been identifying right now is this has been a very different journey. For the masculine energy that has been experiencing this at this point, this journey has been effectively weighing the situations and circumstances outside of the self right now to really understand or potentially even feel some points of overwhelm as it relates to what you have to put forth in circumstances or situations. It may have even led to a point of collapse, which is what we saw in the daily collective read for the masculine. But this has also required a level of degree of surrender for the masculine energy, but that level and degree of surrender has had to do in understanding and coming into a space of vulnerability as to how you are feeling. The masculine energy was effectively putting like their own needs and their own emotions in 2 different places, and you were trying to balance both masculine even though they weren't moving you in the same direction. So a lot of this work that you've been doing over this Venus in retrograde cycle has come into a point of observation in terms of what feels like it is aligned towards you. This is allowing the masculine energy to come and move closer towards the feminine right now. The masculine energy able to do this work but from a point of deep consideration. Because for the masculine energy right now, what we're really seeing is this is that moment that you may now value and understand what you need to bring forth to the feminine, but it is difficult because it is requiring a level and degree of vulnerability that is not your strong suit, but you are working on, hence your abandonment wound also being triggered at this time. This is leading to a moment of observation. It's not necessarily the fact that the partnerships aren't there right now. It is looking at some of the fracture points. It is identifying and recognizing and understanding. For the masculine energy, this could be a deeper understanding of perception as to why the relationships are not in the space and place that you would ideally desire them to be. Hence that understanding of the feminine energy that you have been developing throughout this cycle right now. For feminine, this is looking more externally at these partnerships around you and really asking yourself if they are bringing forth what you need them to be bringing forth, or if they are just triggering your abandonment wound. So, a lot of things on the table here, but from very different perspectives. Now, let's see if we can get our center card for today's spread. Center card for today is, there's that offer again. This may look a little familiar. We had a lot of page energy coming through yesterday, but you will notice that that page energy was not necessarily in a space that is feeling productive. What this is really identifying is there is a bit of a wait and see that is occurring right now between masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy is effectively for the energy that is putting forth right now, really putting substantial effort and time and attention right now into partnership. Masculine energy is still holding on this. We're seeing here that even as you may have identified or recognized yesterday that something that you were bringing forth to the feminine wasn't necessarily being accepted as quickly as you would desire, we also recognize to a certain degree that the masculine energy recognized, because the masculine energy has been doing this type of work to understand the feminine right now, why what they are putting forth to the feminine may feel like a bit of a surprise. You'll recall I was just saying surprise all over the reading yesterday. For feminine, it was accepting a bit of a surprise. For masculine, this is also understanding that something about your approach right now is a bit of an about face. And it is requiring you to kind of need to stand firm to a certain degree as you continue to hold forward in this point. The difficulty with the masculine energy that is doing this right now is that it is hard, because this is what is creating the sense of vulnerability. To hold in this capacity to degree, to be patient in this, is balancing you between the fears and anxieties coming to the surface around your own abandonment wound potentially being triggered, versus needing to effectively hold forward in this way right now to see if something can come into a state of repair, to see if something can come forward in a point of correction. This is a bit of a challenging area for masculine right now, because you're recognizing what you need to bring forth. As we indicated, for some of the masculine energy, this could even potentially feel a little too overwhelming. This could even be a bit of that lesson that you're effectively taking forward from these moments or experiences. This is exactly why we identified that the masculine energy doing this right now is showing the capacity to do it. Because what they're really doing is, this is that aha moment that came to the masculine energy during this Venus in retrograde, that even if they aren't in a space or place to be able to go back to these past situations, to be able to bring that level of support in the way that they wanted to, masculine energy is recognizing that the understanding of what they need to bring forth is effectively the victory here. It's just challenging, though, for the energy right now that is potentially trying to go back towards energies to correct for this right now, because you're not necessarily sure how and if it will be received at this time. For feminine energy, this is that point of potentially observing this right now in the masculine energy that is around you at this time. Bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. For the feminine energy experiencing this right now, feminine, you are also putting a lot of care and concentration on broken partnerships at this moment. But the important thing that's happening right now for the feminine energy cycle that is going through this right now, it is allowing you a new context and observation. Why? Because you are assessing and recognizing the partnerships that are either coming into a space where they feel like they are supported, that they feel like they are sustainable. Hence, masculine energy being able to come forward in a stable, supportive way with solid, stable offers, versus relationships that may have triggered your abandonment wound. This is why even now, if feminine energy is assessing what is coming forward from masculine energy at this time, We saw that there was a need for clarity here, that uncertainty, feminine energy closing their heart space yesterday to a certain degree, but for the sake of their own healing, because feminine energy is being very cautious not to move back into partnerships that they feel are only going to trigger their abandonment wound. They are looking with a lot of care and degree towards masculine right now that is coming forward with offers, and almost allowing some of this slowness to give forth, recognizing that the slowness and the ability of the masculine to obtain the offer is helping to validate and affirm to the feminine that it is not going to be an offer or a point that is going to be quickly withdrawn. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is this is feeling a little topsy-turvy for both masculine and feminine energy right now. Because what we're really seeing is the fact that for the masculine and the feminine energy, it is creating a little bit of feeling confusion and chaos and uncertainty. Feminine energy isn't necessarily into a space or place where they're completely removed from different partnerships right now. What feminine energy is really doing at this time is feminine energy is effectively recognizing and understanding to a certain extent the situations and scenarios in partnerships that create a sense of peace, that create a sense of stability versus spaces and places that create a sense of chaos for the feminine. What are the partnerships that create spaces and places of chaos for the feminine, you ask? Places, and spaces that trigger the abandonment wound. The feminine energy is putting a lot of care and concentration into this right now because this is a deeper lesson that the feminine energy is learning as they move forward at this time. Feminine energy is weighing all of these factors as it relates to what the masculine energy is bringing forth to them right now. All with that anxiety. This is why the feminine energy's heart space was closed off a little yesterday. They don't want to invite chaos in. They want to make sure that what this is something that is going to build and create stability for the feminine right now. And that's where this is even now, anything coming towards the feminine, it's feeling a little bit like this is that surprise that we saw yesterday, because feminine energy does feel like something around this is taking a little bit of time for them to orient on. Now, for the masculine energy that is experiencing this to this capacity, this could be recognizing this in the feminine energy at this time. As we said, for some of the masculine energy, a lot of this Venus in retrograde cycle has been you coming to deeper understanding on the needs of the feminine at this time. So if you're in that vibration and you're in this place, you've also basically weighed what you're coming forward towards the feminine with at this time, and recognizing the fact that it could all create a bit of confusion, potentially as it relates to some circumstances or situations, especially if you're going back to past scenarios right now, to try to come into a point of easement. You are also feeling, not only are you recognizing potentially that this is creating a little bit of the hurdle for the feminine right now, you're also potentially feeling it a lot yourself at this moment, because as you are in this space of holding forth this offer, there is the anxiety and fear in terms of how it will be received. We are seeing here that for a lot of the masculine energy that's going forward in this capacity, in this degree, even if you're recognizing the fact that you're doing this at this time is because it's creating a sense of closure and validation for you, even if it isn't necessarily accepted. But it is still a very confusing place as you wait to see what you are giving forth and whether it's going to lead to the restoration of partnerships right now, or if this is just effectively a separation point, in which case you'll take this as a valuable lesson. That in itself is also triggering a bit of this abandonment wound for you. Masculine and feminine, there's a lot of energy here in terms of tangible things being given, but feeling some of the confusion of what you are receiving. Final card in the first 5 cards before we start getting clarity on these cards today is everybody needs to keep a little bit of strength right now. This is a strength exercise. For the feminine energy, there's a lot of strength that is being required at this point. Feminine energy, you may be feeling somewhat overly emotional right now as it relates to some of this point of understanding that is coming in at this time. Because for the feminine energy, to a certain extent, this is helping to build your own strength, your own fortitude, your own commitment in terms of what you are going to be putting your energy into as you go forward from this point. It is requiring a bit of strength right now in this time. It is feeling like you have to push through a lot of this feeling of anxiety or uncertainty or confusion or this abandonment wound coming into play, making sure that you do not react reactively in reference to the abandonment wound, but instead working from a state of place of deep intentionality and authenticity at this time. The feminine energy is working through this right now, and it is requiring the feminine energy to tap into a layer of strength that is potentially hard for them. There could even be right now, for some of the feminine energy, a feeling of this resistance point. That resistance point that may be coming with something about what is being offered to you right now. You may even be effectively having to feel like you need to resist to a certain extent, because why is the feminine energy potentially in this space of resistance? Because the feminine energy is feeling a lot of anxiety or uncertainty about what is being offered to them right now and whether it is actually going to build a point of stability going forward, or if it's just going to bring in more chaos, if it's just going to bring in more fracture points. Feminine energy is allowing a care and degree of time to come into play around these circumstances and situations, almost allowing the steadfastness, the level and degree of masculine energy being able to hold this forward as validation to the feminine, that this is not ephemeral, that this is not something that is going to come in and then go out again. The feminine energy is utilizing, and this is really interesting because we often get a lot of points of anxiety. Everybody wants to make fun of this, like we call them the turtle night, the slow night energy. But what's really beautiful and brilliant here for the feminine is not necessarily in a space or place right now where they are faulting this slow energy. In fact, feminine energy is utilizing it as a point of validation that the masculine energy is coming forward with something that is legitimate and committed. We deeply appreciate seeing this. This is requiring a bit of a sea change, but not rushing forward and opening up in this capacity is triggering some anxieties and fears for the feminine's abandonment wound. Now, for masculine energy right now, this is the abandonment wound being triggered, potentially even seeing that the feminine is doing this. The point of recognition that is so valuable and important right now for the masculine energy that's coming forward in this way and fashion is masculine energy understands that something about the way they're coming forward at this time may feel like a bit of a sea change, especially if this is energy that masculine is putting forth towards partnerships that are in a point of fracture. Masculine energy is potentially even recognizing right now that what they're bringing forward is potentially different than what they have in the past. They are not sure. You are not sure, masculine, if what you are bringing forth will be accepted in this way. But we also recognize and see that you understand, if you're doing this work right now, that this is going to require a level or degree of patience. That level and degree of patience is what's creating that moment of the abandonment wound for the masculine. Having to hold forth in this offer or opportunity, not letting it affect you or make you kind of run away if it's not necessarily being picked up at the speed that you would desire it to. That is creating some sense of chaos for you at this moment. But you are also utilizing a lot of strength at this time. This level and degree of strength is going to be a little bit easier though, masculine, because I'm almost seeing here the point of vulnerability has already occurred in terms of the offer that you put forth. Now it's just kind of holding the position that is creating that sense of frustration, but you are seeing it as a strength challenge. Now let's start to get some clarification on the cards that we have out here, shall we? Clarification between our Five of Pentacles and our Lovers card in its reversal. Everyone, please make sure that you are acting from a place and space of intentionality today and not getting triggered. Because as I've warned you, we've seen some trigger points coming up over the last few days. These two cards in combination can be very triggering. That is why we need to see a lot of strength right now, because there's a lot of little signs here that could be a little worrying about someone being triggered, potentially moving from a space of the abandonment wound right now, as opposed to allowing their intentionality to really guide them forward from a space and place of what they truly desire in the long term right now. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with 9 of Cups, putting your cards on the table. This is that moment we're recognizing and seeing as it relates to vulnerability at this time. Masculine energy. This is that work that we've literally been seeing that has been such a problem area for you over the last few weeks, because we identified that particularly around the feminine energy right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. Feminine has been asking the masculine energy to give forth in this way in terms of giving that level and degree of understanding on what they want and what they are seeking in the long term. Masculine energy is moving right now from a space or place where some of this offer that they're potentially coming forward with right now has to do with them opening up in this capacity and this degree right now. This is very difficult for masculine energy because it is creating a space or place of feeling very vulnerable to open up in this way. Being able to put all your cards on the table, masculine, has been that act of vulnerability that you've had to work through throughout this Venus in retrograde cycle, potentially coming to understand why and this is necessary and important for the feminine, having to come into a space of vulnerability where you are even understanding that you might not necessarily be able to come forward in that capacity, but at least now you understand the feminine's point of view. That's what we really saw happening during this Venus in retrograde cycle for masculine, getting to a deeper layer of understanding on the feminine energy's point of view. Deciding what you're going to do from that point has been the challenge area. For the masculine energy right now that's doing this work, that's trying to come into a state of repair, this is either going to be one of 2 different places and spaces that are happening right now for the masculines that have been doing this work. For half of the masculine energy right now, this is them going back. You're going back to situations from the past, retrograde energy, to try to amend, to try to correct, now understanding what you need to bring forth. Understanding it is also feeling very triggering because it is making you have to give forth in a way that you may not have done prior in these partnerships. It's triggering. It's triggering of the abandonment wound. It's requiring a lot of strength to do so. But you are also recognizing and accepting to a certain level or degree a point of confidence in terms of even being able to recognize and show this energy around you that you understand this now is allowing for a level and degree of closure. That's helping you as you heal on your own journey right now. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is potentially even recognizing and moving away from these circumstances with this understanding. That was that point that we identified and recognized that this may have felt like too vulnerable an area for the masculines that have to go back to these partnerships in this capacity or fashion. But you're allowing for that point of closure right now, even as you do so with a fuller breadth of understanding in terms of what you're going to bring forward to make sure this does not happen again. Hence, but even in that moment, that is very difficult and triggering because we see the fact that that abandonment wound is also there. Now, for the feminine energy that's experiencing and working through this right now, this is having to weigh what is being brought forth to you right now versus your own anxieties and fears on receiving it. Feminine energy is still feeling super, super triggered as it relates to partnerships. Feminine energy, we even saw yesterday, was going through a lot of work in trying to assess whether there are spaces and places that it was safe for them to give forth in, having recognized through the feminine journey of the Venus in retrograde cycle right now that the major message of feminine energy was understanding is that feminine energy has a tendency and a capacity to give forth into spaces that are not giving back in kind. And that often feminine has recognized in their own path that there have been spaces and places where you yourself were not getting what you wanted or desired. And your response to that was to give more. Feminine energy has learned throughout this cycle that that is not their problem. Feminine energy is recognizing that is an internal problem that needs to be corrected from within, but it's also creating a state or place of hesitancy for feminine right now, because feminine energy is pointing now in a state of anxiety coming out of this Venus in retrograde cycle, in worrying about giving into things that may not be what they appear to be, or may not seem to be what they hope or ideally desire them to be. Feminine energy is utilizing some level of degree of patience, that slowness, to help build their own confidence in terms of what they want to give forth into right now. And this is creating a little bit of a sense of that anxiety and fear in the feminine right now, because even while the feminine energy is potentially holding back on some situations and circumstances right now, there's some anxiety in terms of the feminine about whether those things will effectively go away. Feminine energy is effectively coming into a space right now where they're feeling triggered, not from what is being offered, but whether it is coming from a state or place of legitimacy, authenticity. They are utilizing patience and time, the determination and the stability and the consistency of what is offered to really build that point of clarity. But even holding in that position right now for feminine feels like something that is deeply triggering. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lover's card in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles. For masculine and feminine energy, this will feel a little bit different, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. Masculine and feminine energy right now, there's a lot of care and degree in terms of healing partnerships. These are partnership wounds from the past that you now have better optics on, or partnership wounds that you're currently trying to navigate in the present. For the masculine energy right now, there's a lot of care and degree in terms of having to maintain a certain level of consistency and stability as it relates to what you are offering right now around partnerships. This could feel like a bit of a challenging area right now, because what we're really seeing for the masculine right now is you're potentially putting forth energy into partnerships that require this point of easement or require this point of assistance. You recognize what you need to bring forth on them, but the problem for the masculine is there may be some anxiety about whether it will be enough to repair these, is what we're really seeing at this time. For feminine energy right now, this is coming through in terms of the space or place of identifying your own sense of anxiety and fear as it relates to partnership at this moment. You are weighing potentially what's being brought towards you from masculine energy at this time, to really ask and understand and recognize if you feel it is enough for you to feel stable in these circumstances or situations. You yourself are also identifying that there is some point of healing. There is some point of correction that is needed at this moment. It is feeling like a challenging area though right now for feminine, because feminine energy is also feeling a lot of anxiety about moving into something that may just feed their abandonment wound. May I please have one card to clarify? Different choices lead to different results. Different choices lead to different results. And this is going to be a bit of the conversation that's happening right now. For feminine, so this is one of the issues that's happening right now. And it's going to feel a bit different for masculine and feminine energy. This is a little bit more of a challenging space for the feminine, is what we're really seeing. Because for the feminine energy here, there is this observation of some situations or circumstances that you're taking a new approach on. You're also potentially even seeing that it is leading to different results. The problem for the feminine that feminine is holding on right now is feminine energy is not necessarily sure what this is going to bring with it. Feminine energy is not sure what's in this cup. Feminine energy is not sure what's in this cup. And feminine energy is being very cautious, because as I said, we did identify yesterday that there was this feeling to a certain degree for the feminine energy of a bit of a surprise coming in. Feeling like something about what you were receiving or getting to a certain extent feels a little different than what was coming before it. It's led feminine into a little bit of a tailspin, because while feminine energy may even consider it a positive change, feminine energy is also a little confused by the change. When I say little confused, I mean very confused. Feminine energy has been going through this Venus in retrograde cycle, doing so much work in terms of protecting their own energy right now. It's not even necessarily the fact that it is bringing different results. It's that feminine energy is still espousing a lot of trepidation in terms of what they're effectively accepting at this time. Feminine energy is in a moment where they are considering this option. They are considering this point of view. There is something here of feminine really recognizing the fact that this is coming from a state or place of authenticity, that there's something here that does feel different. And the difference, to a certain extent, isn't the problem for the feminine. The feminine is looking to see if the different thing is consistent, if it is a consistent thing, if it continues to show up again and again and again in the same way, or if it's still going to be somewhat mutable and changeable in this capacity or degree, which is what feminine energy is so anxious about. For masculine energy right now, there is potentially a recognition point of you effectively making a different decision right now. Different choices are leading to different results. Masculine energy spent throughout this Venus in retrograde cycle understanding the value and importance of what they need to bring forth the feminine right now to help them feel more grounded, more secure, potentially even understanding why old partnerships and old relationships didn't work out the way that you would ideally desire, from a better perspective of understanding the feminine's point of view. You are utilizing this work, this understanding right now in terms of bringing forward to partnerships that you feel need some point of amending. This is either, again, for some of the masculine collective right now, this is going back towards partnerships that you want to come into a state of easement on, offering this at this time. While for the other part of the masculine collective at this moment, this is what you are taking away from those experiences. This is the value and the lesson that you are now bringing forth as you go forward from this point. But for masculine and feminine energy, for masculine energy right now, there is this feeling that you are either actively engaged in utilizing these lessons currentently, and there's still that anxiety in terms of how it will be received. There's some anxiety in terms of what it will actually lead to, because you haven't necessarily gone through in this way. You haven't done things in this manner before. And for that reason, you're also feeling that level or degree of anxiety. Because while you are hoping for a different outcome, you're not necessarily sure how that outcome will appear, what will occur from it, and whether it will be received. Continuing to get, and that's what's requiring this state or degree of patience. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our World card in its reversal. This is some of that chaotic energy that we see coming into the forefront here. The chaos is coming from two very different spaces, depending on whether you align to feminine or masculine energy right now. For masculine energy, there is something here about having to hold forth on this offer right now. The way you're coming in today in this degree that feels somewhat chaotic. This could also be masculine energy trying to put tangible effort into something that they already identify has a level of degree of chaos within it. This is masculine energy. A lot of this work that masculine energy is doing right now, this tangible effort and tangible work, is really trying to come into a better flow state for themselves at this time. This is why we saw, even for the masculine energy that is utilizing this as a valuable lesson at this time, this was some of that sense of overwhelm that we saw during that Venus in retrograde cycle coming through. Masculine energy having to balance priorities without giving forth to them was causing a lot of this difficulty for you, masculine. This is you trying to put that tangible effort in to correct some of those your own feelings of imbalance at this time to come into better flow. For feminine, this is not necessarily the facts for you, because what we're really seeing for feminine right now is you are in a state that has potentially been thrown a little topsy-turvy, given the fact of what you are receiving from the masculine right now. The stability, it's the offer itself that for feminine may be making them feel a little bit confused or a little bit uncertain at this time. But feminine energy is trying to navigate this space right now by seeing whether this energy feels consistent. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Chariot energy, and we love to see this because this is really showing to a certain capacity and degree for both masculine and feminine energy the importance, the significance of moving forward in flow with energy that you feel is in that same vibration. For masculine and feminine energy right now, there is this moment and capacity that's really valuable and really important that's coming through right now. And this even has to do with some of the energy that we're seeing around broken partnership at this moment. Because even though there may be this moment that feels like a bit of a wait and see that is occurring here, there's something that is much more valuable that is coming into play right now in terms of just making sure that everyone is on the same page and moving in the same direction. For the masculine and the feminine energy that is working in this capacity, in this degree right now, there's something really important about coming into alignment with the energy that you're bringing forth at this time. A lot of this is just coming through right now from a state of correction and understanding. You will recall one of the difficulties and hurdles that we identified yesterday in terms of where the anxieties of the feminine were coming from versus what the masculine could put forth to be able to provide that level or degree of clarity to the feminine had to do with the fact that the feminine energy was feeling anxiety about the uncertainties in terms of the future. Masculine energy was recognizing that the feminine energy was feeling that vibration, but feeling somewhat limited because the masculine energy cannot promise that they know what the future will hold. This is beautiful to see today because what we're really seeing is masculine has found a way or degree of coming into better understanding and alignment with what they can provide the feminine to help them feel more secure and stable in this. Because what the masculine is effectively understanding and recognizing is while they can't necessarily give the feminine energy complete, total validation that everything will be fine in the future, masculine energy can do everything they can right now to put tangible energy in showing the feminine energy that they are committed to moving in the right direction, that there is a path here, that they are all in alignment, that there is an easement in terms of saying, I also want that. That is also something that I want. We are on the same page in terms of clarity about what this will look like going forward. This is what masculine energy is both effectively trying to seek for themselves at this time, because they also recognize that it's going to create a sense of easement, both within the self right now, in making sure that there's alignment with all energy that is moving in the right direction, versus any spaces or places that may be creating some sense of chaos because they are lacking this point of view or this orientation. For feminine energy, this is the solution to what you are experiencing or is being offered to you from masculine, versus coming into a state or place of feeling somewhat thrown by it. We're seeing here what we're really identifying for feminine is feminine energy is truly ultimately seeking right now to make sure that the masculine energy is both going to come through in a space of consistency and stability in terms of what they are offering the feminine right now, especially if it feels like a bit of a sea change. And also that they are unified in terms of the long-term path and the long-term goals right now. There could be a lot of conversations that are occurring today in terms of what that long-term path looks like, what things look like as you go forward from this point. But all of this is to help correct some of these feelings of imbalance. For masculine, this is bringing that point of support to the feminine that you're seeing is in this point of imbalance, that is putting you in a point of imbalance because they're not necessarily coming forward or being as open as you would desire. For feminine, this is that moment that you yourself are navigating this space and you're getting the clarity from the masculine in terms of it taking their time and being committed to that path ahead. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our world in its reversal in combination with our strength card. There's some feeling of controlled chaos today, or trying to get back on top of things, maybe even navigating some spaces or places that you feel are in a point of chaos at this time. But it's requiring a lot of strength. This is a bit of a strength exercise today as you navigate these spaces and places. May I please get one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now, and we love to see this card. King of Cups. What do we see? You will recall that yesterday our card of the day was our Queen of Wands in its upright. Feminine energy trying to activate on their masculine. Masculine energy is trying to stay in their emotional center right now. The effort and the energy right now for masculine that is feeling like such a challenge and hurdle is trying to stay emotionally balanced at this time. This is the sign of you doing that successful work in the strength exercise. Because what we're really seeing here is there could be some very triggering circumstances or situations right now, especially as it relates to your abandonment wound being triggered right now, masculine. It is potentially creating this moment that it may feel very hard for you to keep your emotional balance to a certain degree. But what we're also recognizing is you are utilizing this as an act of strength. holding all forward in this way, being consistent in this way, being patient. It is trying your patience, but you are doing everything you can to stay emotionally balanced throughout it, recognizing that that is the source of strength. This is giving a lot of the indications of the work that the masculine energy has been doing in terms of picking up what the feminine energy does that they themselves need a better understanding on. Masculine energy has been learning this throughout this Venus in retrograde cycle right now. This is still some of that alignment with the feminine energy that was coming as a result of that cycle. For feminine energy right now, this is building a point of clarity. Because as we see here, for feminine energy, this is feminine energy really trying to navigate and make sure that masculine energy is in a point where they are also emotionally balanced. Feminine energy is recognizing that there have been spaces and places that have created chaos for them in the past. We identified for the feminine energy, that's a lot of that shedding process, thank you for the gift, that occurred during the Venus in retrograde cycle. Recognizing the difference between situations that they may want to go back towards or they feel a call to that were not necessarily in their best interest versus spaces and places that create in supportive environments for them at this time. This is requiring or feeling to a certain degree like a point of confusion for the feminine, but feminine energy is building a point of stability by focusing and trying to manifest right now masculine energy at a point of emotional balance. Now, for some of the feminine energy, this is you currently experiencing this energy. This is potentially even someone coming towards you right now in a different modality with this level of degree of stability that they have learned in themselves. Hence the Venus in retrograde cycle overlapping the Mercury retrograde cycle at this time. For the other part of the feminine energy right now, this is what you are looking at towards what is being offered to you at this time to try to assess if that masculine energy is at a point of emotional balance. That is what is requiring you to a certain degree to see if you can wait, to see if they are patient, to see if they can be forthright. All of these are triggering for you because doing this type of work is very difficult. But feminine energy is willing to be strong right now because feminine energy is recognizing that these are all the characteristics of masculine energy that is balanced. They're feminine. And they're utilizing this as that point of clarity, even if it is feeling triggering for them to do so. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 9 of Cups in combination with our 4 of Cups in its reversal. What we're really seeing right now is for masculine and feminine energy right now, there is this point that is so valuable and so important because what we're really identifying at this time is for the masculine and the feminine energy that is going through this work right now. Masculine and feminine energy are coming from a space of being as open and forthright as possible at this time. Masculine and feminine energy doing this work right now are trying to effectively put their cards on the table, and it is requiring a level of degree of taking new approaches at this time. There's something here that is a bit of a sea change, and there is a bit of a wait and see that we are seeing around some of these choices and around some of these experiences right now that are causing a certain level of degree of anxiety or uncertainty. What that is going to result in, what that is going to achieve is also kind of being held right now. But there's an observation that there's something around these circumstances and situations where you might not necessarily know what it's going to lead to because you haven't necessarily done it before. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Swords in its reversal. This is some of that anxiety. This is some of that fear coming to the surface right now for masculine and feminine energy. For masculine energy, something around this. What have we pointed out? Being open to this degree. Being forthright to this degree. This is a challenge for the masculine energy. It is requiring some of those anxieties and fears coming to the surface right now. The anxieties and the fears have to do with the fact that something about being open in this degree or capacity makes you feel like a bit like you can't really like push forward. Right? You can't push forward right now. We saw this. Do you remember we saw this literally a few days ago with the masculine energy having that moment of potentially moving too quickly, but not necessarily knowing what to say? Masculine energy is in the opposite modality right now, which is something that has been given forth in a very specific way. And masculine energy is now in a point right now that this is some of that sea change. And it's hard because it's not putting masculine energy in a place or a feeling that they can be very activating in terms of it. This is a lot of that hold energy that we saw yesterday coming into play that is challenging the masculine energy's own confidence right now, potentially also leading to a state of feeling some unsettling in the space and place between right now. For feminine energy right now, this is also that moment in terms of recognizing, being forthright and open to really identify how the masculine energy reacts to those circumstances and situations. For feminine energy that is effectively going through this right now, feminine energy is going through a moment right now where they themselves are really assessing the masculine energy that is effectively around them at this time to see if they are able to maintain this level of degree of confidence at this moment. This is also why feminine energy is willing to kind of shed some of this energy going forward from this point, because what feminine energy is effectively doing at this time is feminine energy is effectively recognizing that they want the masculine energy to come from the state or place of support. If feminine energy doesn't see this right now, feminine energy is kind of copacetic in terms of that. They're all right. They're okay with that because they're looking for masculine energy that's going to be supportive and isn't going to kind of run away when things get too difficult. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Chariot energy. We love to see this right now because what we're really seeing is this is that movement forward right now. That's aligning right now to that path, that is aligning right now to that purpose, that is making sure that you are on the same page as it relates to how you are proceeding forward from this time. But it is taking a bit of a different point of view right now, a different consideration in terms of what that looks like, in terms of how that affects you, in terms of doing something a little different. And as a result of doing something a little different, you don't necessarily know what will come into play. But allowing this point of understanding of the unified energy around you all doing this work at the same time is what is going to create that sense of positivity as you go forward from this point. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Cups energy. We love to see this right now because what we're really identifying and we're really seeing is for both masculine and feminine energy. This is something that is feeling like there is a lot of possibility at play. For masculine and feminine energy that's effectively going through this right now, this is also allowing oneself to come into a state of easement, that recognizing that there's these points of comfort that masculine and feminine energy feel when you feel that sense of alignment, when you see that sense of moving together in a unified direction and a unified purpose, that while it may feel a little bit uncertain, it also creates a sense of easement. It puts you in a state where you don't need to feel so much anxiety, where you don't need to feel so much fear. You don't need to feel the point of the abandonment wound coming to the surface right now. This is what masculine and feminine energy are both effectively trying to seek right now. Because what we're really identifying at this time is that there is this moment that is happening that for masculine and feminine energy, you are effectively understanding that it is this type of vibration that helps you stay in a space of play. It allows for a sense of creativity. It allows for a sense of delight. And there's almost something that's really coming into play here right now in terms of some of this sea change that we are identifying that is allowing the masculine and feminine energy to make some of these differentiations or make some of these changes at this time because it is creating a sense of delight to do so. For masculine and feminine energy, we love this because this is helping navigate some of the chaos in the moment right now with these points of clarity that are then suddenly taking those points of chaos and making them feel like they are points of play, of fun, of enjoyment. This is going to even allow for a bit of an easement as we proceed upon the day right now. I will point out for masculine energy, this could even give a sensation right now of moving into some feelings of distraction, of allowing that point of distraction to effectively help and assist you as you go forward from this point. For feminine energy, this could be seeing that this type of vibration in the masculine today, that there may be something about the masculine energy potentially being overly playful, but that may be coming from a state or space that the masculine energy is potentially masking some anxiety in terms of offering something that feels a little more lighthearted because they feel some anxiety in terms of what you're going to be receiving and accepting from them at this point. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Chariot energy in combination with our King of Cups. We love to see this right now because one of the things that we really appreciate right now, and this is why we're seeing masculine energy is feeling comfortable going forward towards energy right now, especially around partnerships that they may feel need a point of correction. Because masculine energy, to a certain extent right now, which is really beautiful, is kind of leaving the door open in terms of what to anticipate and expect at these times. Masculine energy is almost allowing for anything right now to make sure that things are on the right page, to make sure people are on the right track. A lot of this Venus in retrograde energy coming into a state of healing right now. And this doesn't necessarily even need to relate to the masculine energy wanting to come into a space of even around the partnerships that don't feel like they're in a point of easement, just wanting to make sure that there's an alignment going forward, even if there's a point of dis-easement in those partnerships, which is something we really appreciate right now for the masculine energy, which is a bit of a sea change. That could even be some of that feeling of goodwill that you're having towards partnerships not in alignment right now today, masculine, that you're trying to make sure that the energy around you is all kind of unified in a positive direction. Very beautiful here. And masculine energy is doing a lot of strength work to stay open in this way and capacity. For feminine energy right now, this is allowing for a point of understanding. Feminine energy was coming out of this Venus in retrograde cycle, basically only saying they're only allowing masculine energy that is in emotional balance to come forward at this time. Masculine energy that has done the work to integrate their feminine aspect, not necessarily run from a point of fear from it, but really embracing that to lead to a level or degree of honesty and opening or openness is what the feminine is identifying that they want to hold and maintain going forward. That is literally what the feminine energy is looking for right now. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the Tower. This is exactly what we are seeing that is coming through right now, because the feminine energy, this, you will recall, we got this card in bottom of the deck yesterday. So what did we identify was really coming forward yesterday in the cards? What we were really seeing in the cards yesterday was the fact that for masculine and feminine energy, there was a feeling of trying to avoid and avert some sense of crisis at this time. Masculine energy is doing a lot of this work in the tangible space at this moment. Masculine energy is utilizing a moment right now of really trying to stay in balance with their feminine energy at this time. It is a bit of an emotional challenge. It is a bit of an emotional trigger. Masculine energy is maintaining this for as long as they can at this time, but there is some feeling of anxiety or uncertainty in terms of what it may lead to at this time. Because as we saw, masculine energy is putting a lot of care and degree and energy and effort right now in terms of what they are giving forth towards circumstances or situations. Masculine energy is trying to see if these are going to result in spaces and places that are going to lead to better alignment going forward, or if it is potentially going to lead to a point of disaster. This is the anxiety of the masculine energy right now, feeling the fear of the abandonment wound right now, because masculine energy doesn't want to necessarily go into a point of crash, some of that crash point that we saw over the last few weeks. For feminine energy right now, what we're really identifying is feminine energy is simultaneously being very conscientious in terms of the energy that they are allowing towards them at this time. Feminine energy is only allowing towards them at this moment masculine energy that is shown a level of degree of emotional balance of the feminine within themselves right now. Why is feminine doing that? Because feminine energy is trying to avert disaster, because feminine energy has recognized that it's not necessarily they're pulled towards certain things. It's whether the energy is in balance that really helps them understand if it's going to be a productive space in terms of going forward, or if it's just going to bring more crisis, more problems, more disasters, more difficulty into the feminine's life going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now look at these two cards right now, my friends. Our Knight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Page of Cups. What are we seeing here right now? Masculine energy, this is going to feel a little topsy-turvy today, because what we're really seeing is like, while you are feeling some fears, some anxieties coming into play for today, you're also trying to distract yourself from it. you're feeling a point right now of anxiety, and you're doing everything you can to distract yourself from how you're potentially feeling. Because again, there's something here that feels a little open-ended in terms of trying to heal some partnerships right now and how that's going to effectively result. But you're doing your best right now to keep an easy vibration around these as an act of strength. For the feminine energy that's effectively feeling this right now, this is potentially seeing this in the masculine right now, of a masculine coming forward right now in a state of easement or delight, but recognizing that there may be some trepidation or fear that is also coming for the masculine at this moment. This is why the feminine energy is effectively holding to a certain degree in terms of what they're allowing in at this time, or having that point of trepidation, because feminine energy also wants to make sure that masculine energy isn't just coming in from a state of play and self-enjoyment, and that is going to lead them to run away again. Hence that slowness. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Devil card in its reversal. And we love to see this because this is really identifying the healing journey that is occurring right now. There's a deep level of healing that is happening right now for both masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy may even be coming through right now at a point, and again, we're seeing this for the energy that's working on healing past partnerships or moving forward from past partnerships with the level or degree of understanding on what needs to be brought forth going forward to come into a deeper level of easement at this time. Masculine energy is trying to navigate and clarify in terms of their intentions being pure, in terms of wanting to be in a space of positivity and healing. This is something that is very valuable and important right now to the masculine energy. Masculine energy is also potentially trying to navigate how to come forward in this degree or this capacity to the feminine right now, which is how do I go towards them from a state of wanting to bring delight and joy without them thinking that my intentions are impure or in the wrong place. Masculine is potentially recognizing that that is going to take some time around these circumstances or situations. For feminine, this is also a moment that you yourself are also working on healing. This path or this progress that you've been making during this Venus in retrograde cycle has really been one where you've been identifying to a certain level and degree the energy that you want to come forward with at this point, which is an emotionally balanced masculine energy. And that is also requiring a masculine energy that is able to be in a point of healing. Not even necessarily, and this could even be for a lot of feminine energy, looking at masculine energy that has made this change to a certain degree and trying to assess if the change feels legitimate at this time. For others, this is you kind of moving through a cycle right now of potentially moving away from any energy that you feel is either, again, not showing a level of degree of confidence and consistency, or seems to be moving in the direction of only following their own desire, their own pleasure, their own joy at this time. That is helping you come into your own healing vibration. Next card to get clarity on right now between our Page of Cups in combination with the Tower energy. So for masculine energy right now, this is some of that abandonment wound that is rising to the surface today that needs to be focused on and healed. Masculine energy, what we are seeing right now is, again, it's not the fact that there aren't some points of orientation or observation around partnerships that you feel require a level or degree of healing at this moment. What is much more significant and what is much more important at this time for the masculine is potentially trying to give forth in this way to see if these can be healed, to see if these can be averted. Masculine energy is also recognizing to a certain degree how some of the behavior in the past wherein you may have been moving only from your own sense of pleasure may have caused some level or degree of catastrophe for you, potentially as it relates to partnerships at this moment. While for feminine, this is similarly that point of observation, working and navigating this space. Even for the energies that are in partnership at this moment, there may be a lot of conversations in terms of having to identify what feels like it is coming through as healing right now versus something that you feel or recognize is causing more difficulty or too much of a challenge point for you at this moment. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the Hierophant. And we love to see this card coming into play, because what we are really identifying at this moment is this is that level or degree of commitment as it relates to circumstances and situations going forward from this time. For both masculine and feminine energy, what we're really identifying at this point is there is a deeper recognition of moving into a deeper level of commitment right now in many different aspects of your own life right now. This, to a certain degree, is the masculine energy. Potentially, if you're experiencing this right now, masculine, potentially committing yourself to making the changes necessary to avoid any of these crash points going forward from here. While for feminine energy that's effectively been experiencing or feeling this right now, this is also yourself making and maintaining a level or degree of commitment, not to move towards energies that you feel are going to create this level or degree of confusion, of unrest, of unsettlement. This is a lot of that mutual work that we're seeing, but it is leading to a deeper level of commitment. For the masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership right now, this is a commitment to oneself. For the masculine, in terms of what you're coming forward right now with in terms of offers, this is potentially even committing around you to the energies in terms of making sure to let them know that you would never do these things. You would never cause this kind of harm, even if you've done so in the past, which is why some of this may be feeling like it is a bit of a withheld acceptance of offers and possibilities right now. Potentially, if you're going back to situations where this behavior that you now recognize and identify may have caused some of the fracturing points. While for the feminine energy right now, this is effectively moving in a state or place where you are, again, taking the time you need to assess the energy coming towards you right now to make sure that it is coming from a space of authenticity, recognizing and potentially even articulating on the fact that energy that has come towards you in a state of only wanting to move in a space of understanding their own needs and their desires has led to crash points. And this is also recalibrating and refocusing the feminine energy's efforts and commitments in terms of what they themselves are moving towards at this moment. Final card for today's spread with 220, and I love these two cards in combination right now. Beautiful energy. Because what we have here right now is the Devil card in its reversal in combination with our Hierophant. So what we're really seeing here that is so valuable and so beautiful is this is a moment and commitment to moving into spaces and places of deeper healing. Taking that moment, allowing that degree of certainty, allowing that degree of commitment to come through right now. Committing right now to the healing of your journey is what we see for both masculine and feminine right now. For masculine, this could potentially even be coming towards past circumstances or situations where you feel this level or degree of partnership needs to be eased and healed to show your own commitment to doing so. While for feminine, this is assessing what is being offered to you right now to really ask yourself, does it show the ability to heal? Is this commitment coming from a legitimate place as you yourself stay and maintain on your own healing path? May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Swords in its reversal. Action being taken today. Movements being made. Allowing this to be a moment of activation. For some of you right now, like I said, this is going to be a lot about recognizing what feels like it is most healing for you at this time. Emotionally and spiritually healing, coming into that state of deeper healing is going to be a lot of that work that you're doing right now. And it is a bit of a process, but we're seeing here that you're utilizing a lot of your care and orientation and observation to really help you focus on what you feel is beneficial to your own healing journey at this time that you want to continue to commit your efforts and energies into, which we love. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Nine of Swords in its reversal. This is very retrograde energy that we are seeing here right now, because what we're really seeing that's happening to a certain degree and capacity is there is a bit of a rebirth cycle taking place right now. It is feeling like a lot of this energy is coming back up to the surface, but we are recognizing and understanding that this has to do with a bit of that crash point that we saw just a few weeks ago, because for both masculine and feminine energy, there's a recognition of some kind of feeling of rebirth that is happening here. This could even be the rebirth of past circumstances and situations right now that need to be addressed and assessed. This can always feel like a bit of a problematic area. It's not easy to go through these rebirth processes because you have to really assess and understand how far it's taken you or how far you've come and how many hurts you've experienced along the way as you proceed forward from this path. But rest assured to give yourself that space and pace. Work from a space of intentionality, allow oneself to really sit and rest in your emotional center, and that's going to give you what you need as you proceed forward from this point. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a personal reading, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video with the option of recording sent to you afterwards. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please, please, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a personal reading. I will never inbox you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your DMs and tell you that I have a very special message just for you. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow. Guys, that is the